to the final episode of Season 3 of the Yale College Voices podcast. For those of you who don't know me already, I'm Darice Corey, your host. And today I have the pleasure of welcoming John Ferraiuolo. As for some of you may have known John for years here at Yale Central IT, but John's going to share some of his story now working as Director of Information Systems. So welcome, John.
Hi, Darice. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome to have you. And I'm so glad that you could join us for our final episode. So, and for those of you who haven't listened to the podcast before, this is Season 3, our final episode. And just like Seasons 1 and 2, we're exploring inspiring journeys of our staff who shape the Yale College community. So again, welcome, John. And I'm going to share a little bit about you and then we'll just talk.
Sounds good.
All right. So John is the Director of Information Systems for Yale Summer Session and serves as the Chief Information Officer, providing strategic leadership in the development, management, and operation of student information systems and data management initiatives. So John has been with Yale for more than 24 years and began his career in human resources. I didn't know that. He spent 20 years in various roles within Yale Central IT. John holds a master's degree in industrial organizational psychology. And John is also a military veteran, having proudly served in the U.S. Army Reserve when his unit was mobilized in support of Operations Joint Endeavor and Joint Guard. John enjoys spending time with his wife and 2 daughters, ideally outdoors, camping, hiking, kayaking, or simply relaxing. So thank you again for joining me today, John. I know that whenever I reach out to folks to invite them onto the podcast, it's like, oh no. But no, we've worked together for many, it's hard to believe. I think going back to, when I started working in the dean's office, that's when we first started kind of collaborating on different projects. And so, I'm wondering if you don't mind to share a little bit about yourself. Like where did you grow up in Connecticut or where you're originally from and whatever you'd like to share with our listeners?
Yeah, sure. I am from Connecticut. Yeah. So I grew up here right down the road in North Haven, which is actually where I reside now. So I went to North Haven High School and I went to college here at the University of New Haven. So know the area well, and I've made several attempts to move away over the years, but for one reason or another, I've been pulled back, and happily so at this point.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. So what as a kid, I always wonder. I know that for myself, like growing up, I kind of always knew I wanted to work in technology or some aspect of computers or technology. So was it the same for you, or what kind of sparked your interest?
In technology, yeah. That didn't come until much later. I had that as a hobby, I would say. So in high school, we'll say in the early 90s, the internet was just emerging. People were on America Online, AOL, all these things, right? And websites, standalone websites were just really starting to become a thing that people were going to. So, I think the thought was, what could Coke.com possibly have on it that was of interest, right? And so there were these ideas of like, what would you put on a website? We see how that's evolved now, but at the time it was just playing around and, looking at the code behind the scenes of a website. You could, right-click, view source, and you could look at the HTML. It was very simple back then.
Right.
But it looked like magic to people that didn't know what was happening.
Yeah.
So it was at that point where I started to just play around, copy-paste some code, change it around, figure out what it does, trial and error. I had built some of my own computers, so I liked kind of the physical aspect, too, of putting stuff together. It was much difficult back then. You really had to know what you were doing.
Yes.
Today, there's websites that kind of help you along. But that's kind of where I got my interest, but I didn't really see it as a career. I didn't know it was a career, to be honest with you. I had my sights set on something else, in my life for a career. But over time, the path kind of brought me down the road to IT. And so I ended up there.
Yeah. So what, when you were a kid, like what kind of hobbies did you have, or like leading up to high school? Like what were your interests?
I was I was into music a lot.
Oh, wow.
So I liked music. I liked movies. I worked at like a video store, so I kind of had a lot of that interest. A lot of 60s and 70s music. I played the drums.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So I was in bands, and that's really where I spent a lot of my time. I mean, I wasn't a terrific student. I wasn't a terrific athlete, but I could play the drums pretty well, and if I was known for anything, it was probably that in school.
Oh, that's so cool.
And so, I did a lot of that as a hobby, but I also had, a deep interest in community service and giving back. And so the way that kind of manifested in me was looking toward the military at some point to join that. People, I feel like people should contribute to their community, right? And people do this in all different kinds of ways, PTA or coaches or local government. For me, I thought I should, join the military and kind of do some service. So when I was younger, those were the two kind of opposite ends of the spectrum almost. But I was interested in both, music and in the military.
Oh, interesting. And so what, was there, like you said, helping people, but was there a certain thing that just really, drew you to the military that just made you know that this was, a path that you wanted to explore?
I had a lot of, I think, pride in the country and America. I was a history buff, so I would look at the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, World War I, World War II, and kind of I felt, really a lot of pride around the people that served and help, make this country kind of what it was in, in an unfortunate, war-like situation. But so I think it was that. I think it was a lot of just wanting to do the most I could do, and I thought the military might be the most I could do.
Yeah, that's interesting. So when you did join, was there, did you have any moment where you were like, okay, this was not what I expected?
No, I mean, I kind of expected. I had watched a lot of movies, I'd read a lot of books, so I kind of knew what I was in for. But I did a special program. So and I don't know if the military still has it, but they did at the time. And so you could sign up at 17 years old. And so I did. And it meant going to basic training between my junior and senior year of high school.
Okay.
So when I finished my junior year of high school, I went off to basic training, Fort Benning, Georgia. I came back and I finished my senior year of high school. And, and I really feel like I was, changed compared to all the other kids that were there, I felt different, but basic training was just like you see in the movies for the most part. But you get through it. I think in your mind, and I think this helped shaped me in my career is to, just say it's, one day at a time. It's 6 weeks. There's a time limit here. There's a time box. You can get through it. And you break it down further to say, each meal, each hour, I just need to get through this hour, get through this exercise, get through this training. And over time, you kind of move through it. And also, so when it comes to like looking at my career and looking at work, I kind of have that same philosophy and attitude. We'll take one thing at a time. We'll piece it apart. Something big, we can chunk it down and make it smaller. And the other thing that I think I realized was that not everything is a big deal, right? Not everything is life and death. So some people get really fired up over what I would consider things that are not life and death. And I think having some perspective on what is a really bad thing and something that is just, we're unsatisfied, but we could fix it.
That's so interesting because so my brother, one of my older brothers was in the military as well, and he started when he was like 18, I think, and I knew for myself that I was like, yeah, military is not for me. But I wonder if you could share, when you said you came back to school, what were some of the things that made you feel different or changed?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I was super immature, but I think I matured, over that summer. And when I came back, they were, again, I had only done basic training. It's not like I was in any kind of conflict at the time, but I took things a lot more seriously, maybe more seriously than I should have as a
Really?
senior in high school.
Mm-hmm.
But I just didn't feel like I fit in with a lot of the nonsense that was happening.
Yeah.
Right. And kids were just being kids. I mean,
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
senior year. No one was doing anything wrong. It was just, I felt like I'd already moved beyond that point.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so then after my senior year of high school, I had to go back to finish my training. So I did another summer before I went to college. And so I
Wow.
kind of, I started out with a plan.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it was kind of in motion until I got to college. Yeah.
Really? Did you feel like when you did come back, like you said, like you just had a different perspective than other students? Did you feel like that you just had kind of sped up your maturity in a way?
I think so. And, that might have been me just kind of building my own ego up a little bit. I don't know.
Really?
But yeah, I mean, it was tough. It was not a fun summer. Like I'm sure a lot of kids were just at the beach or
Yeah.
maybe had a job or whatever. And this was tough.
Yeah.
But it was what I wanted to do. And I completed it. So I think that was, I felt a lot of pride in doing that. Not everyone completes it, I saw. But yeah, came back and finished school and did whatever I had to do.
Yeah, yeah. So what, growing up as a kid and then, like you said, you were interested in music and, you weren't like, I don't want to say you weren't into school, but like you said, you weren't like an, top student or
Not at
anything
all.
like that. So there must have been, growing up, were there certain people that influenced you over time that kind of guided you into that direction?
My family is a lot of blue collar workers. My dad works in a machine shop. He's 75. He's still working in the machine shop. My mother was an administrative assistant or secretary and, raised kids, me and my sister. So, I admired the dedication that they both had to, what they were doing.
Yeah.
It was a little bit difficult. My sister has some handicaps, and so we had to deal with that, growing up, which was not easy. I could see on them as a child, and now as a parent, I couldn't even imagine having a handicapped child, even though I kind of lived through it with my sister. So I give a lot of credit to my mom and my dad for everything that they did to support us, work, and then, raise us.
Yeah.
And then my great-grandmother was still alive when I was a kid and, really into my 20s was alive. And so she was a great support system, the matriarch of the family. And I think this was an altruistic person. Like when you think of someone who does something for someone else without without wanting anything in return, that's who this person was.
Wow.
And so I looked at her and I said she was genuine, with whatever she did, whether it was to cook for you or give you something or listen. So I admired that and wanted to model that the best I could.
Oh, that's so awesome. And it's so important growing up to have people around you like that, because it does, it guides you as in terms of who you become as an adult. And like you said, when you realize once you hit that moment as an adult and you start thinking about, wow, my parents did all these things. And, even in my situation, looking back on my parents, I was like, they did all this stuff, and I honestly don't, I don't know how they got through it. And in a way that didn't, growing up, I didn't feel like I was going without things, it wasn't, but they instilled those values where, certain things were a priority and other things, not that they didn't matter, but I don't know, it just didn't shape who we, who we were. So, So yeah, that's so nice to hear, and thank you for sharing that. Are there certain memories that kind of stick with you, through your childhood, or maybe even once you join the military, or are there certain things that kind of still stand out in your mind in those experiences?
Let me think. There was a couple of stories that, like when we sit around the kitchen table, that tend to come up from time to time when I was a little kid. So probably, earlier than 5 years old. And I don't know that they shaped me as a human being later on. Maybe they did,
Really?
but I guess I was found outside directing traffic at like 4 years old on a
Really?
main street,
Oh my
in
God.
Wallingford, Connecticut, where we lived
Oh
at the
my
time.
gosh.
So if you can imagine just a 4-year-old finding their way
Yeah.
outside into the middle of the road directing
Oh no.
traffic. And so that comes up.
Yeah.
I don't think it was the same event. I think it was a different event
Mm.
where, the famous in my family kidnap story where
Really?
where my mother claims I was kidnapped.
Oh my
I
goodness.
say a bunch of us just got in this guy's car
Oh
and
my
told him we
gosh.
wanted to go to the park, and he brought us to
And
the
he d-
park. The way my mother spins it, it's
Right,
as if we
right.
were all kidnapped,
Yeah. Oh
and
my
somehow
gosh.
miraculously just left at the park.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
But I don't know that they shape kind of who I became later, but
Mm.
they're just kind of funny little stories
Yeah.
that come up.
Mhm.
I think there's, as I look later on in high school and, either the military or in college with education, leadership became kind of a big thing with me, and wanting to start to model the things that I saw that I really liked as, I guess, as a leader at the time, but later as a
Mhm.
manager when I was an employee and a staff
Mhm.
member,
Mhm.
kind of using almost like a buffet model where I like these aspects of this
Mm.
person, these aspects of that person,
Right.
and wanted to try to do, to model those same behaviors myself
Yeah.
later on.
Yeah. I'm wondering. And like I said, I don't know. I know the military is an outsider, or a family member, but when you're in the military, are there certain aspects that you, like you said, you kind of picked, like a buffet? Are there certain things that you still carry with you in terms of how you approach your leadership style today?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, originally when I signed up, I wanted to be in the infantry, and I wanted
Mhm.
to do, all kinds of, be in the special forces and do all
Mhm.
kinds of crazy things. And,
Mhm.
that track didn't kind of pan out for, a variety of reasons, but it led me into military intelligence, which is where I
Mm.
spent the, last part of my time in the military. And it's a lot about analysis, listening, learning.
Mhm.
And so some of the skills that and I think it's both learning the skills there and also having it as just a part of who I am.
Mhm.
It's to just try to understand what I'm seeing and what people are telling me,
Mhm.
and correlate information together
Yeah.
to say, is this accurate? Do I understand what people are saying?
Right.
So spending time listening, I think, became a skill that I honed over the years. And I think part of it was, again, just kind of an innate ability that I've got. I'd prefer to listen than talk,
Mhm.
just
Mhm.
generally.
Mhm.
But also just I want to understand people's positions before
Yeah.
I start making any kind of assumptions or before I start talking myself. And
Yeah.
so how that manifests itself now later in my career
Mhm.
in information technology is to really understand what is the problem people are saying that they're experiencing.
Mhm. Mhm.
I mean, sometimes it's not a problem we can solve with technology. Sometimes it's a process problem or a
Mhm.
people problem,
Yeah.
but people want to fit technology into it and try and fix it that way.
Right.
Sometimes they have a technology they've already chosen in their mind, and they
Mhm.
want us to just use it, whether it's going to help or not.
Right.
Right. So it's really trying to understand, okay, what is it that we're all feeling here,
Mhm.
in getting multiple data points from different people and
Yeah.
wherever we can draw that data from, data itself, to say, is the direction we're heading the right direction? Are the choices we're making the right choices?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's so interesting, hearing you explain it in that way, because I've seen it for myself, being in meetings with you, and um, yeah, like when I think back to times when we've had meetings on different projects or things that the college is looking for, and yeah, I see how you have that sort of methodology where you listen in, and it's like you're just kind of processing and
Hmm.
getting all this info, and then um, preparing your assessment.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's really interesting because, like you said, some may rush to try to apply technology where that's not always the problem, right?
Right.
So, and now I'm curious if you could tell me, like, what brought you to Yale, like what
Oh, sure.
between joining the military
Yeah.
and then how did you get to Yale?
Yeah, I mean, so I was in the reserves, for the majority of the time that I was in
Mm.
the military. So I went to high school, I went to college, and between my junior I think, no, between my sophomore and junior year of college, my unit, my reserve unit was called up in Mobilize. And that's when I was in Germany for a year, doing those Operation Joint Guard Endeavor. And so I went to the University of New Haven, and I went there because I was told that they had a great criminal justice program, and they do have a great criminal justice program there. Because my track was to do maybe FBI or CIA or something like that.
Okay.
I didn't know if I wanted to be in the military full time. I definitely know I wanted to contribute and stay in the reserves, but I was headed towards, state police or something like that, and law enforcement. After 4 years of college plus that year in the military, I think I had seen enough of that, and I wanted something different, and I didn't know what that was. So I actually, this is not something I ever would have done, but I did have a love of music, I guess. Maybe that's why. But I did join the radio station at the University of New Haven as a disc jockey, which is, again, such a stretch for me. I never would have done that. I don't know why. I still don't know why I kind of made that decision. But I did. And so it was at the radio station that I met a couple of people, and one of them was in grad school. So he was kind of like a grad assistant or something in the radio station. And he talked to me about the industrial organizational psychology graduate program that he was in. And that seemed interesting to me because I liked history, government, and psychology, in school, if I were to pick subjects that I liked. And so the idea of, business psychology, why do people do what they do? How do they work in groups, teamwork, leadership, efficiency, all those things kind of are built into industrial organizational psychology. So, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do anyway. I was graduating from college. So I applied to graduate school and finished that program. And this is really where I start to understand that there are opportunities in life, and you kind of have to identify them and kind of go for them, right? So one of them was that guy, him and I having this conversation about IO Psych, me getting into the program. And then someone mentioned there's an internship at Yale. We all had to do internships at the grad school. And so he or she, I forget who it was, introduced me to Laura Freebairn-Smith, who at the time was the director of the OD and Learning Center in HR here at Yale. So I applied for an internship there, and she interviewed me. She was very nice, but she said, we actually chose someone already from your program, so we don't really need you. I said, okay, fine. But like 2 weeks later, I got a phone call, and she said, it didn't work out with that other person. Wow. Are you still interested? And I was. So this was probably in 2000. So I took the internship at the Organizational Development and Learning Center, and it was a great time. It was a great department. Some of the same people are still here at Yale. In fact, Lynn Sayers, who is working for colleagues of ours, was working in that department at the time.
Oh, interesting! I didn't know that.
Debbie Stanley McCauley, who is still here at Yale, was in there. So a lot of folks were. Yeah. And that was kind of my entrance from college, grad school into Yale. And, kind of one thing led to another. I was there for, 4 or 5 years and was looking for a change. And, Lynn, who was a colleague then and happens to be now,
You're right.
mentioned to me that there's this job opportunity in IT. And so that's really where I made the jump from human resources and psychology into IT. Wow. And again, it was going back to what I was saying earlier about doing as a hobby, building websites. Yeah. So web publishing, I would call it, light HTML and using Dreamweaver, and I'm forgetting all the tools now, right. But it was
brings back memories.
Yeah, it was an interesting role, and it was a foothold into IT, which I didn't know I really wanted. Yeah, and so I took that job, thinking that I'll spend a little bit of time here while I look for other HR jobs at GE or Travelers or wherever. And again, I was given a lot of opportunity by the manager at the time, Roger Dupre, who's still a good friend of mine, and I see from time to time. Oh. But, I developed and grew in that group. He trusted me. He gave me opportunities. I excelled at them. And, I kind of molded my career from that. So I had no path from elementary school to high school to college to, working here as a career to where I am today. It was kind of like creating the path when I saw the opportunities and taking that path, that shortcut. you know.
That's amazing.
Well, I wouldn't call it a shortcut, but but taking that turn, pivoting to say, okay, here's an opportunity. Let's try it out.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't remember where I first, because I've been in different, training workshops or leadership workshops, and they always say that we want our leadership journey to go from like A to B, sequential steps, but pretty much everyone, it's kind of a squiggly line that's all over the place, and but it adds to your experience too, like in terms of how you how you lead, or how you make mistakes and you learn from them. But that's so interesting, and what's always so cool about hearing folks who have been here at Yale for so long, like yourself. It's like we have a squiggly line, but all those people we meet along the way, it ends up, it comes full circle later on, which is so interesting.
Yeah.
But also so important, right? Because all these connections that you make along your journey, all of a sudden now you're working with the same or some of the same colleagues now. So so now we're going to pivot, speaking of pivot, to talk about your current role. Well, before I do that,
Sure.
Can you tell us a little bit about your experience over the years when you worked in central IT?
Yeah. So I was there for a long time, and I had done a variety of different things, right? So it started out, like I said, web publishing. Then I took on the role of standing up and maintaining enterprise level applications.
Yeah.
So this would be SharePoint and project servers. So these were standing up servers, something I had never done before. So I had to learn how well that worked. And I had to work with other colleagues in the server, the server team, the database administration team. So I had to learn all those things. So I had done that, and it really helped me work with people again, right? So not in technology for technology's sake necessarily. Like I don't want to sit in a room and code, even though I'm an introverted person and quiet,
right?
Which can be construed as aloof. It's not the case. I do like talking to people, and I do like kind of helping people, right? So the role that I ended up getting into in technology was one where I was client facing, where I was trying to understand what is it that they're trying to do in their office, and how could we maybe find a piece of technology that could help. And so that's what I really did in central IT for a good portion of my time with enterprise systems like SharePoint and Project Server, trying to find ways in which we can help with process. And that kind of, I'd learned, I think I'd hit a plateau there, right? So I'll say that. And I had, again, reached out to resources, contacts that I knew in IT, and I said, what else could I do here in IT? And again, seeing an opportunity and taking advantage of it, I was introduced to someone in the student space. Now, the thing that kept me at Yale all this time in not leaving for something like GE or Travelers was I liked the mission of the university, right? So at the time in 2000, it was explained to me to advance, disseminate, and preserve knowledge, and that really resonated with me. And I like the fact, I like being in a college environment, you see young people, students, there's activity, research happening. So that kind of is kind of the foundation of why I stayed here at Yale. But then to move my skill set into an area that really directly impacted students was something that I think I really wanted to do, right? So I moved into the student space where I was supporting not students directly, but the systems that students use. So, everything from housing and dining to admissions and, all the different things that really enabled students and helped students, I moved into supporting those kinds of systems. And that was the trajectory to where I kind of got to. So I, supported those systems for a number of years, and then I became the director of the group that supported those systems, or the associate director. And I did that for a number of years. And then the opportunity came to move into Summer Session and kind of be the director of the student systems in an academic unit, which is really where I saw my career heading, while I was the associate director of the more broadly across the university. I really wanted to be in an academic unit outside of central IT.
Oh, interesting. And so what, looking back, on your time, in IT. Um, for example, I have interns from New Haven Promise who really want to figure out, like, okay, I've graduated, and what should I do next in my career? Or how do I even get in the door to kind of kickstart that entry level experience? So, looking back on your experience, what kind of advice would you give an intern?
Yeah, it's hard. I have a daughter who's 20, and so she's kind of in that same boat right now.
Yeah.
So I'm talking to her about how that works. I think it's a little bit luck. It's a little bit opportunity. It's a little bit about who you are and what you can do. So you need all those things to kind of align.
Yeah,
I think,
yeah.
and it's unfortunate. Sometimes you have to tell people luck is a factor. Just a resume hitting the right person at the right time, and
Right.
you get in somewhere. So,
Yeah.
or knowing somebody.
Yeah.
That's also a part of it. But I think you have to cast a wide net, but don't accept anything just to have something, right? I think you really need to be able to understand what you like and what you don't like.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes as an intern, you're going to have to just suck it up for a little while, for a few months. That's
Right.
unfortunate, but
Yeah.
you might learn something, right? You might learn something that you take with you for the rest of your life, even if
Yeah.
you're in a internship that ultimately is not what you want to do, or
Right.
not in the environment you want to be in.
Right.
You might learn what you don't like,
Mhm,
what you want to avoid for the future, or who you don't want to be. If you see a manager and this person is just you're not gelling with this person, avoid the things that you see that aren't working for you in the
Right,
future.
Yeah.
It might be hard to think about
Yeah.
that when you're 20 years
When
old.
you're 20, yeah. Exactly.
But I think that's what it is. Just try to put feelers out there and talk to people.
Yeah. I think back on my experience when I was 20, and like you said, I was introverted too. I didn't, I regret all that time that I didn't really network. I didn't just kind of get out of my little shell. It took me a long time to figure all that stuff out, because I did all the resume stuff, and tried to apply as much as possible or get involved with programs. But I'd probably say my career took a different trajectory once I started learning how to network and talking to people. It makes a huge difference. And just having a conversation with someone could, by chance, turn into some other opportunity. And it took me a long time to like really figure out that skill. But it's I'd probably give the same advice. It's like, you have to, it's something that you have to learn how to do to advance yourself. It doesn't happen overnight, but
it's not easy. It's not, at almost 50 years old now, it's not easy for me, but I push myself, doing something like this, going to collaborating with you, and some other ways are things that I think you have to do as a part of your your role in your job, but also to stretch yourself a little bit.
Definitely. And so one thing I wanted to bring up too is that you also have had New Haven Promise interns working in your department in ITS. Can you share a little bit more about your experience?
Yeah, so I think there's several different programs. I didn't have any, I don't think any New Haven Promise specific interns, but I did have early career development and summer internship. So, I think again in the philosophy of trying to give back and to help others, right? I've been a big supporter of having summer interns since I think IT had started that program when I was there. So I know 7 or 8 summers in a row we had summer interns, and it's 6 or 8 weeks long, so there's not a lot of time, but you really need to give someone a chance and an opportunity to learn, maybe contribute something back to the group that you're with. It was never about filing paperwork. It was always a real project that they could put on their resume and something we really needed done. So that was good. And that takes a lot of time, right? I mean, we are all very busy professionals, but it takes time to give a little bit of advice to a summer intern and then give them a project and really stick with them for those 8 weeks, knowing that this investment is going to go away, right? This is not a permanent investment. Now, the early career development program in IT, another fantastic program, takes someone that in I think what is it? I think 6 months in 3 different departments.
Yeah, which is amazing.
Yeah, so it's an 18-month program. They spend 6 months in Department A, and then 6 months in B, and 6 months in C, and it's a rotational program, right?
Yeah.
So it gives them the opportunity to see different areas of IT
Right.
before they kind of make a commitment to any one particular area. And I think that's important because I think people probably think of IT and they think of maybe a help desk or a programmer or a server, but there's a lot more that happens there.
Right.
We have business analysts, we have finance people, we have all different kinds of roles in IT, and so this early career development program really gives graduated college students an opportunity to see a variety of different places. So I've been a big proponent of that program as well. And ultimately, those ECDP staff members can become full-time members, and then really, the investment you make for 6 months can turn out, whether for you or for someone else in IT, can be really good.
Yes.
And we've gotten some diamonds in the rough from that program.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like that program, New Haven Promise as well. Yeah, exactly. Like the interns are so, they're driven and they really, they do want to learn, which, that helps the experience, right? Did you find, on the flip side of that, it's like we as managers want to offer a particular experience for interns, but did you find that you learned from the interns, or that they sort of changed how you lead as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. You can get into a rut, right? Where you could be doing the same thing every day. You could be doing it the same way, despite your efforts to think like you're really trying to find new ways to do things. Someone that's young is going to bring fresh ideas. They're going to come from college where maybe they've been learning a newer technology than what you've been doing. They're going to ask questions, sometimes painfully, why are we doing this? Why, why, which is, you need to hear that, after you've been somewhere for 5 or 10 years, you need to hear, you need to explain why. Yeah. It'll make you think, why are we doing it that way? And as you explain it, you can kind of hear the ridiculousness sometimes of why we're doing it this way. And maybe it will spur some change, right? So I think it's great to have these folks in here, not only because they're talented, but because they do make you question kind of what's happening and why are we doing it that way. Yeah,
absolutely. I found the same thing. Like it forced me to think about, like you said, how we're doing things, and maybe in the process as I'm trying to train them. Figure out a better way, because as I'm sort of putting together or packaging whatever it is, I'm going to show them how to do something, and then I'm thinking like, why are we doing it this way? Or maybe, as having fresh eyes, maybe they have, ideas in terms of how we can improve it. So I'm curious, John, moving into your experience in Summer Session, can you tell us a little more about, for folks who don't know what Summer Session is, if you could explain that, and then tell us a little bit more about your experience. How long have you been in the role?
2 months.
2 months, okay.
Yeah, so yeah. I'm learning and coming up to speed. So Yale Summer Session offers college credit courses for Yale College students and visiting students. So the bar is quite high. It is, these are actual Yale College courses that are being taught over the summertime instead of, during the fall or the spring. So there are a lot of students, a lot of Yale College students who are taking it to catch up or to get an early start if they're, new to Yale. You have some students who didn't quite finish all their graduate requirements before they graduated, so they need to take maybe one last class, and they have the opportunity to do that over the summer. So it's a great program for Yale College students. I think it gives faculty a chance to offer courses that maybe they can't offer or don't, they don't have the chance to offer during the fall and the spring. Although a lot of the courses that are offered are foundational type courses that, required courses that people just need to take. And it's also open to visiting students, right? So if you're at another university and you need to take a course and you want to take it at Yale for transfer credit, and it's also open to high school students who have that are really ready for a college level experience. So that's the main audience at Yale Summer Session. Yale College students visiting college students and some high school students. And it's a great program. It's a great department. It's small. It's very focused, which is one of the things that I liked about it. And so my role previously was to support all admissions at Yale, or to support Yale and everyone at Yale for this one particular thing. Now I can be very focused and say, okay, I'm just focusing on Yale Summer Session students. And it is just during the summertime. It's compressed, so the timeline is very short and very tight. So deadlines come quickly, and it's kind of over before you know it, kind of thing. So we have 2 sessions, A and B, and some other programs too, but A and B are kind of the big sessions, and A is just about wrapping up, and B is I think people move in this weekend for B.
Oh, wow.
And they'll be finished by August 1st. So June 30th to August 1st, very tight time frame, 5 or 6 weeks to get all the courses completed. So it's a sprint, kind of from May until August to kind of get all this done, and then a lot of planning for the next year.
Cycle. And so students actually live on campus over the summer.
Some can't. Some do. Yeah.
So, and like you said, you've been in the role for a couple months. So what does a day in the life of John look like over the past couple months, or what is kind of what types of things have you been doing over the last couple months?
Yeah. So I think I would say 2 primary functions right now. I don't think it's a finite list of 2, but things I'm doing right now to support them. One was admissions, and that's pretty much wrapped up. I think we've admitted just about everybody we're going to admit for the summer. So there's some tools we use for that, and some processes we have for the application. So I've been helping with the tool, which is Slate, and with the process just to make sure that it kind of has gone smoothly. And I have a great staff. I have a great staff member who supports that, thankfully. So admissions and then reporting is another huge component of the role. And I had done a little bit of that previously, but this is probably, 40% of the role is just looking at data, getting lists of data, and compiling it in many different ways for different purposes. Who's going to be in housing? Who needs an ID card? Who needs, who's got a meal plan? Who, all these different groups of people, and making sure that it's accurate, because there's changes happening every day. People are being added, people are withdrawn. So we need to keep up with the data and make sure that all the different groups who need to know what's happening. So I'm following those processes, which was done, really well by my, the former person in this role. And at the same time, taking a lot of notes, like here are the things I would want to change in my role if given the time and the resources to change it. So I'm building a list of things John wants to fix and change. Not fix, but see if I can enhance and change. And we'll see if they make it into FY 26 or if they're, further out there.
Which I think is so cool about, having your experience before from working in central IT and having that sort of inner, insider knowledge of ITS and all of the different systems. Like you said, like most may think of IT as like the help desk or networking, but they're all of these other components. And it's so nice to like have someone who has that sort of, that other view to figure out, okay, here, like you said, here are some other opportunities that we may have. And, so that's one thing that I'm like excited to work with you in this different, kind of a different approach now. Yeah. So that's pretty cool.
And I will just add, like, I think one of the other kind of underpinnings that I've got is that I don't feel like there's one solution to everything. Like I feel like you could do something 3 ways and it would get done just perfectly fine.
Right.
So I want to have that in the back of my mind. Like, yes, I might want to change something,
Yeah.
but it's not because this is just the way John likes it.
Yes,
It's just
yeah.
because I really do feel like this might be a better thing.
Right.
And if others don't, I could live with that.
Yeah, yeah.
I could go, okay, so.
Yeah. So do you? I have not had like a ton of experience directly with summer session and the inner workings, but do you interact with the students like more so than you did in your prior roles in ITS, or how does that work? Or are you still more of I don't want to say behind the scenes, but more of the just IT focused, and the students see it as like the result of your
I'm much closer today than I was 2.5 months ago.
Yeah.
But there's still a little bit of a buffer. There's still a registrar, one of my staff members, and some of the other team at Yale Summer Session work much more closely with the students than I do. But I think it's an expectation that I should step into some of that role, and whether that's helping people get their net IDs squared away or an email address squared away or working with technology. I think that might become more a part of the job for me in the future. But right now, it's just a toe, I think, in the water there to support students directly.
Going back to, like you said, you're dipping your toe into the water. Is there anything surprising so far that you've learned along the way in the time, your time here so far?
No, not totally surprising. I did work with this team. I sat on the other side of the table with them. So I worked with them on some of the reports, some of the admissions, some of the tools that they're using today. I worked with the former person in this role. So nothing totally shocking. I think they're, working in an academic unit that's only focused on itself, that's a little different for me, right? I'm usually looking at, what would work for the most people at Yale. And now we're really, I could abandon that thought. It's more about what is going to make this academic department the best that it can be. And sometimes it might be partnering with someone who's already doing something. Sometimes it just might be we have to do something, that's bespoke for us.
Right.
And so that's an interesting take.
Was it like kind of I don't want to say difficult transition, but is it challenging to sort of change your, I don't want to say mindset, but, the shifting, it's a shift, right?
It is, yeah. And I think the shift there is, my portfolio is as far as the number of things I support is much smaller today than it was before. So if anything, the shift was instead of focusing on 15 things, I got to focus on 3 or 4, but very deeply, I had a large, well, I'll say, I don't know if it's large, but I had 8 staff members, consultants and in my previous role, and now I have 2, right? So some of what I might have given to a staff member to do, I'm doing myself now. I think this role is also much more strategic than I felt my previous role was. So I'm also looking at, the larger picture a lot more, and looking at what do I want to recommend we do for 26 and talking to the dean about that.
That's so awesome. Is there anything, thus far that you've faced in the role that was just unexpected, or anything you can share along those lines?
I don't know if I have anything that I could say is completely unexpected. I guess the unexpected part is I've been working with technologists, and so we're just focused on the technology side of thing, and now we're focused on everyone's got a whole different kind of role. So it's really looking at where I fit in compared to what everyone else is doing. I don't know if I'm explaining it well, but before we were all just kind of focused on a technology to get it working well. Now now I'm working in a department whose focus is on academics and students, and we have someone working on just the academics and someone working on various different functions of how students are going through the summer. So I think that's kind of not unexpected, but just a different environment.
Do you and obviously because you decided to take on this role, is there something that you're looking forward to over the next year or so that just is something that really drives you to continue in this role?
Yeah, I'm always looking for ways in which we can be a little bit more efficient, right? And so without getting too far in the weeds of the technical changes that I'd like to make, I think there are a few things that we could change where it would make us working a little bit more efficient. But ultimately, the goal is for applicants and for students to really have the best experience they can have, right? So
Yes.
I'm looking at it as, what would an end user want? And in this case, it's a student. What would prompt my daughter to apply to Yale Summer Session? And if she was using the tools that they have to use to apply, would this be a good experience for them?
Yeah.
So I think in that way, I'm looking at anything I propose to change to make improvements on either our process or the experience the student has.
Yeah, I think, and that's so important. I'm wondering what you think about, like you said, in your prior role, you didn't interact with students as much, or you didn't really intersect with them. Do you think, what are your thoughts in terms of, because it's limited for ITS, that maybe there should be some sort of opportunity where they, and I don't know what the opportunity would be, but where they do kind of get that student facing experience. Like, do you think there's, now that you're seeing the other side of it, is there, what are your thoughts on that, or how can we sort of share that message with ITS?
Yeah, I think that we could do more in that space. I feel like so in central IT, at least where I worked and where the majority of IT works, is in an office building far away from campus is one thing, right?
Yes,
physically, a lot of administration is away from students, and so you tend to forget what is actually happening on campus, which is young people walking around, going to classes, faculty, research, right? So I think one thing is to make more than an effort to get people out of that area in downtown onto main campus. Because I think it just instills in you like, oh yeah, that's why we're here. We're here for education. There's a whole college here. And then there's opportunities like commencement, maybe orientation, if there were volunteer opportunities, I think it'd be great for IT to get a little bit more involved there. Just sitting at a table, helping direct students, handing out IDs, whatever it is, right? Kind of being enmeshed a little bit in that, role, even if it has nothing to do with IT, just to get you kind of out in front of students and remember why, we're here ultimately. And I also think there's amazing architecture here, right? We have so many buildings downtown. It's great to just visit new places. I've never been in this. Well, I've been in this building, but never here. So there's always somewhere new to explore.
Yeah, there really is.
And while I really enjoyed working from home, I do feel like you lose a little bit of the kind of the purpose, right? You don't see campus every day.
Right.
And I think a lot of my colleagues are working from home, which I get. I loved it.
Yeah,
I did.
It has its perks.
But for many years I was on campus, and it really, I think, helped keep me here, because I did enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I think if you never have that experience, you're a little bit less tied to Yale.
It's so true.
And a little bit easier to just say, I just work at home. I could do another job working from home.
Right. It's so true, because after the pandemic, I missed it. I was so used to being on campus that, as soon as we were offered the sort of option to return to work, I was yes. Because I felt like I just felt a little too detached from being around staff and being, like you said, being around students. And I agree with that, because in my early experience in the dean's office, I didn't get out. I didn't get out and see the colleges or the cultural centers and really learn about what they're doing and talking to the staff to find out like how they do their work and the things that they do that are not always visible,
Yeah.
you know, and how they get their work done. So that once I started changing how free, you know, just getting out and talking to people and seeing, like you said, seeing the spaces,
Yeah.
that really just really changed how I view my work and what, you know, why I do love being, you know, in the college. Like you said, you worked in IT, central IT for years. And for me, I've been here in the dean's office, but it's, you know, for a reason, because I do really, you know, I enjoy my work. I
Yeah.
enjoy seeing the results of my work and like direct results, and whether it's the students or the staff.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes a huge difference. And like you said, I think it would be, and I don't know how I'd resolve it or, you know, propose something, but I think it would make a difference for staff to really, you know, see what's happening in the colleges, or, you know, go to an event, or,
Yeah.
you know.
It's easier said than done. You know,
Yeah.
during the workday,
It's
I mean,
hard,
I could tell
yeah.
you, my colleagues, we were, and like many people in their roles, not just at
back-to-back
Yale, it's just there's
meetings.
so
Yeah.
much work to do, you know.
Exactly.
And Zoom is the best and worst thing that's ever happened. It is.
Yes.
It really helped during the pandemic, and in a lot of ways, it allows you to do more
I
than
know.
you could do before.
Yeah.
But in a lot of the worst ways, it means you don't have to have that in-person meeting. You don't have to
Yeah.
walk
Yeah.
from one
I
building
lost
to
my
another.
steps, yeah.
Yes.
I was
you-
doing so many steps before.
Yeah, and so I mean, for those that don't know, I mean, there's
Yeah.
a half a mile distance between my old building and downtown. So if I had to
Yeah.
go meet with someone, you walked
Yeah.
and you met with them in their office, and so
Yeah.
that meant less meetings because there was more travel
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And not to say less work, but there wasn't as much thrown at you
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
at once with all-day meetings back to back. I mean, Zoom allows you to
Yeah.
basically have meetings back to back to back to
Right.
back, and in a way that before that was really not likely to happen. You know, you would have one or two meetings with some travel time.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, I remember the time where people were like, what is a Zoom meeting?
Yeah.
You know, if you proposed one. And like you said, I mean, now we were forced into that mode with the pandemic, and it's almost like, how do we break out of, you know, how do we break out of that mode to just get out and, you know, see what's really cool about working here at Yale. Like you said, there's so many buildings and
Art galleries,
events.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. You know,
Museums.
yeah, you could see something new every day, which I just think is so cool to even have the option.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I feel that I don't know how I would structure something, but it would be so cool for people to really see, you know, here's the result of the work that you do, and I think it would change your perspectives at least.
Yeah.
So John, I'm wondering, you know, going back to what you shared earlier about, you know, you love the outdoors. So how did that come about? Like, was that something from childhood too?
I don't know. We didn't do a whole lot of outdoor stuff when I was a kid, as far as camping or hiking goes. You know, that wasn't kind of, I think, my parents' thing. But I definitely enjoyed it while I was in the military, right? So we would be out a lot,
Yep.
walking a lot, and camping. I guess you can call it that.
Yep.
And so I really did enjoy that time. And then so a little bit later on in my life, I picked it up again, you know, when I started, you know, dating my second wife. We did a lot of camping, a lot of hiking when we first started being together. And we would love to do it now, but we've got a 5-year-old daughter, so it makes things a little bit harder.
Right.
But we're looking forward to, you know, starting that back up again, getting her involved in some of that experience. So we hiked, I think, the tallest peaks in New England, and so we've done a lot of, you know, neat things there, and just love being outside. Not so much on a hot, humid day, but you know, on a nice day and in the water, it's good.
Oh, that's really cool. So maybe you could do. I'm not a. Actually, I've never been camping. I was about to say I'm not a camper. I've never been camping.
It's fun. It's great.
But yeah,
And
I was
you
like,
could
I'll
do
try.
car camping.
Yeah. I was gonna say glamping, maybe.
Glamping. Yeah, absolutely. It starts out with 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 a sleeping bag
Yeah,
on
yeah.
like a little mat, and it turns
So
into a
not
blow up
into-
mattress and a big tent, and
Yeah.
that's okay.
It's okay.
It's still, being outdoors, not having the light pollution,
Yeah.
is nice.
Mm-hmm.
Having just hearing, crickets or cicadas or
Right.
whatever with a
Yeah.
fire
Mm-hmm.
and talking,
Mm-hmm.
maybe no screens.
Yeah.
It's
That's
different,
really important. Yeah.
for someone like my kids, that's different.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
they don't know that life.
Mm-hmm. Like
know.
detaching from devices.
Yeah, making a
and,
s'more,
Yeah.
and just chatting about things.
Yeah.
So
No, it's great that you brought that up because we haven't done that this year yet, but we had a little fire pit going,
Mhm.
and my kids really, I didn't think they were into it, but they loved the experience and
Yeah.
just sitting, and
And I have to say, given what Yale has to offer, there's the Yale Outdoor
yeah.
Education Center, which we've been to many times. And, that's a great opportunity for, a Yale
Mhm.
employee or staff member
Yeah,
to bring their family.
really.
They don't allow camping anymore. Or
Mhm.
they don't have that anymore, but they
Mhm.
still have a beach and some, lake. And,
wow.
it's a good time, and they've got, paddleboard and
Mhm.
kayaks and canoes and things to do. So,
Really? Yeah,
yeah.
I haven't, that's another thing I haven't done yet.
yeah.
That's very cool. So John, like looking back on your journey, from whether you're thinking of childhood or like high school years to Yale, and then, your first experience at Yale and then to now, like what, looking back, what advice would you give your younger self?
Mm. Um, yeah, what would I give my younger
Mhm.
self? I kind of like the path I ended up on.
Mhm.
So I would say trust your instincts maybe, and
Mhm.
because I can only say it was my instincts that kind of led me to where I'm at.
Yeah.
I'm not one to take big jumps, right? Like I didn't move across the country to
Yeah,
take a
yeah.
job at, Facebook or something.
Right.
But I took little jumps here at
Mhm.
Yale, which were, I think, strategic and were kept me kind of in moving in my career,
Mhm.
but also comfortable.
Yeah,
Where I didn't have a lot of stress
Right.
over how am I going to make this work.
Yeah.
So I think I don't know if I would still want to jump into some other industry.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I guess I would say just trust your instincts.
Yeah, that's great. It's a great piece of advice because, like you said, as a 20-year-old coming into just trying to figure out what what am I doing after college and what where am I going? It's scary, right? Like
Yeah.
you don't know if you're making the right decisions, and
And that's okay.
And it's
I'll
okay,
say
right?
like the people that I worked with early on in my career were people that were not in technology first,
Mhm.
right? So some of the smartest people I met were literature
Mm.
majors or physics majors or something else,
Mhm.
and they ended up in IT.
Mhm.
And so I think it's more about what you learn and how you apply it
Mhm.
than it is a linear path from
Yeah.
A to B to C. It's taking what you've learned in your experience and being able to apply it appropriately to something new and different.
Mhm. Mhm.
I think we hear it a lot. We don't want someone that has 10 years of the same experience. You
Yeah.
want to have 10 years of different kinds of experiences, right?
Right.
So do that. Don't allow yourself to fall into a rut.
Mhm.
Get yourself out of it.
Yeah.
Move on when something's not working.
Right.
Or stick with it. Don't feel like you can't stick with something for
Mhm.
5 or 7 or 10
Mhm.
years if you
Mhm.
really do like it.
Yeah. That's a great piece of advice. And I love the idea of, like you said, it's if something's not working, to at least take the opportunity to explore your options and other opportunities and see what fits. And one thing that I think I was so afraid of it at that age was just, oh, if I make a mistake,
Mhm.
and it was the end of the world, and and how do I recover from that? But knowing that it's okay, right? To sometimes you make a decision and it's not always the best, but then how do you recover
Yeah.
and learn from it?
Yeah. I mean, I think, great advice I've heard before is everyone's going to make mistakes. People are going to fail. There's going to be errors. Accidents are going to happen. I mean,
Mhm.
it's completely unrealistic to think that any one person or process or anything is going to be perfect all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really how you act and what you do in the face of those things that really determines, I think, a lot about who you are, right? When things go sideways, which they will, how do you react and what do you do to fix it at that point, you know? So I think that's very important is your demeanor and your approach when something doesn't go well. Because it's going to happen.
It's going to happen, and how you handle the situation is what truly matters, right?
And honestly, the more you face failure, the better you are at dealing with it when it happens, right? If you go 25 years without failing at something, when you do fail, it's probably not going to go well that first time. You know? So failing in high school, whether it's in sports or academics or in any other way, is going to prepare you for the eventual failures you're going to run into.
Absolutely.
And so I think it's important to stick with something and really try hard and like put a lot of effort in, but also recognize at some point you're going to hit a stalemate. And to say, you know what, this isn't working. And so I think it's just as important to try hard as it is to recognize this isn't working and to cut bait and to say, let's put our efforts into something that is going to work because this isn't going to work no matter how hard I try.
Well, that's a great, thank you for sharing that. That's a great way to end this episode. And like I said, this is our final episode of season 3. And I think it's so important to, like you said, look back on, okay, here's something that didn't work out, but whether, did I put 100% into it and it just truly didn't work out, or, what should I, when should I decide to move on to the next opportunity or, and make some changes. And I just thank you so much, John, for, joining me today, because I learned more about you. Like I said, we've been kind of working together over the years, but I never really had a chance to sit down and get to know you. And I think it's just so, like I said, for me, getting to know my colleagues and, hearing about their experiences, because as you were sharing, your experience in the military even, and I was like, it helps me understand your thought process, like when we're working together on a project or having a meeting and when I understand someone's thought process, I don't know, it's like you create more of a synergy when you work together.
But this was one-sided. Now I got to have this on the other side to learn about you.
I know. Everyone keeps teasing me that. One day, I promise I'll be on the other side of this. But no, I just think it's so cool to get to know you, and I appreciate your time and thank you for joining our podcast family. And I hope that when folks listen to this episode, that one of the other takeaways is like you said, like getting out, talking to people, it can lead to some other opportunity that someone I meet today, I never know 3 years from now that it may lead into another opportunity. And I think that's so important to keep that in mind, to kind of have that sort of long game, thought. But thank you, John. It was so nice to get to know you today.
It was great.
Thank
you.
Awesome. Thank you.